look at the rest of the options in this menu. I can reply all by meeting. Now, what do you suppose that would do?
Having seen the availability, I assume that it will try to set up a meeting.
You're exactly right. So what it'll do is it'll take all the people involved in this email and try to put them into a meeting. This is going to go on my Outlook calendar. We'll talk about that some more a little bit later. And I can choose the location. I can choose the date and time. If they are people within my organization, I'll see the times that they're available based on their calendars. It's telling me right now that for this particular time, you're both free. And then I can choose send, and that'll put it on my calendar for today. There it is. And that's a meeting with Ben and George. And at the moment, neither one of you have replied. But we'll talk about that some more in the calendar option.
Okay.
Let's go back to our email. Notice too that in Outlook, this is a relatively new thing. I can choose whether I want my email, calendar, contacts, or tasks by choosing the icons down here in this quick launch area. So to go back to mail, I'll choose mail. Let's continue looking at the rest of this menu. I can reply by IM or reply all by IM. I'll be honest, I almost never use this. This is part of Skype for Business. So again, if in your organization, Skype for Business is a big thing, if you're using that for communication, and we'll talk more about Skype for Business in another module, then maybe I don't want to have an email back and forth with you over this. Maybe I need a quicker answer, or if we're just having a bunch of little short conversations back and forth, it's better suited for chat than for email.
Or I could see if we needed an answer in real time.
Right. If I know you're available. So I could choose reply by IM. That's going to open a Skype for Business screen, and now I'm in a chat session. And if you were online, you could reply. Notice that it's telling me you've been offline for 19 minutes, which is when you put your computer away.
Right.
So it's kind of nice to have that integration built into Outlook. I can also choose to delete this message. I can delete all messages from Ben Burris. I can mark this as junk or mark this as phishing. Both of these are helping Microsoft to learn what messages it should be filtering for you. So if you mark as junk, it's going to put it in your junk email folder. It's also going to basically add some information to the artificial intelligence that's tracking what messages should go to your junk folder in the first place.
Okay.
If I mark as phishing, it's a similar thing, except it's going to delete it, and it's going to be more likely to not deliver that type of message in the future at all. You want to be very careful with that one. I can also choose to mark as unread. Now, why would I want to mark something as unread?
I sometimes mark an email unread if I have to come back to it later or if I'm in a shared inbox.
Right, yeah. If it's something, big that I can't act on right now, but I want to remember that I still need to act on it, that's one way I could do it. I could mark it as unread. Notice that over here in my message pane, I have a little blue line next to the ones that are still unread. I can also choose to mark it as read, and the blue line goes away. So I can kind of see at a glance which ones I still need to read. Continuing down our menu, we have flag, we're going to talk about in another module. Policy, we'll talk about in another module. Print, I don't know how often we print things anymore, but sometimes you need to print an email. What this is going to do is it's going to open it in a format that's going to print better, so you don't print it with all the folder list on the left and all of that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, it's very clean.
Yeah, so here I can print and choose a printer, and it'll send just the email that we're looking at, which is nice. I'll cancel out of there. Show in Immersive Reader is kind of handy. As I get older, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, and especially if I'm on a device with a smaller screen, sometimes I want to just focus on the email and not have all the clutter around it. So if I choose Show in Immersive Reader, it's going to take everything away and just show me a big picture view of the email itself. I can adjust my font size. I can adjust how many lines I see. I can also have it read to me.
Chip, I think we should meet up to discuss some of the new updates for Office 365.
So that's especially helpful for people that have any kind of visual disabilities, or just people who, like me, have some old eyes and get lazy sometimes.
Yeah, or a long email while you're working on something else.
Exactly. So we can go back by using the back arrow here. That puts us back in our Outlook. The last couple of things, open in separate window, that's the same as the pop-out icon we saw before, where it's going to open this in a separate window. Very helpful if you need to have multiple emails open at the same time. You can kind of organize them on your screen and move around that way. And that last one that we skipped, view message details, occasionally, especially if it's a spam message or something, you may need to give your administrator the message headers, which is what this is. It's telling us where the message actually came from.
Got it.
So that's how you get into that from here.
Okay. Now, Chip, I noticed that there's not only the reply and the email, but there's also one above the inbox itself.
That's true, and they are the exact same thing. You don't have the big menu here in the drop-down, but the reply all, and forward work exactly the same. There's actually a third place where you can get to it as well, because Microsoft always likes to give you options, and that's in the message itself. If I right-click, you'll notice I get a similar menu. It's not quite the same. I have a lot of the same, reply all, and forward. I don't have things like reply by IM. Oh, and there's our notification for the meeting, so I'll go ahead and dismiss that.
Okay. And now, Chip, it looks like there's some new stuff too, like pin and move and categorize.
Yeah, good eye. So in this menu, we do have some things that are more related to the organization of the email in the folder. Let's talk about pin. And pin is interesting because this is one of the features that exists in the web version of Outlook and not in the desktop versions.
Oh.
So it's kind of neat. If I knew that this email from you was something important that I wanted to make sure I didn't lose, I can choose to pin it. And what's happened is, you see, I get a little notification here. There was a little thumbtack. You notice it just jumped to the top of the list.
Oh.
I get a little thumbtack icon. Anything that's pinned is always going to be at the top of my list. So in my case, I haven't counted today, but I have a little over 500 emails in my inbox. If I want to make sure I don't lose yours, pinning it to the top is a great way to do it. I wish I had that in the desktop application. So that's a great benefit of the web app. When you're ready to unpin it, you can either click the icon here to unpin it, or right-click and choose Unpin from here. Now it says Pin because we've already unpinned it.
Got it.
So a few extra benefits there. By the way, that Pin function is also here in our ribbon bar under the three-dot menu. You'll see Pin and Unpin here.
Okay. Now I know how to reply to an email, but how do I start a new email?
Sure, fair enough. So you notice in the top left, next to the search bar, we have this New button. If I just click on New, notice if I hover over, it's going to tell me it's going to start a new mail message. And so if I wanted to send a message to you, I can start typing your name. If it's a name that I have in my contact list, it'll pre-populate. And notice that it's not just individuals. We also have groups like this DF Sales 2 group, which is a group that includes both you and me. So let's go ahead and choose that one for our example here. I can add a subject line. I can press Tab to toggle between fields. So I press Tab to come down to the body. And I can just type a message. Again, I have the same sort of formatting controls down here, so I could highlight that in yellow. I could, for some reason, make that much different.
Right.
All those sorts of controls. When I'm ready, I can choose to send it or discard it. Notice that it's automatically saving a draft, so if I did close out of the web browser, come back later, I'll be able to find it in my drafts folder.
Gotcha.
And there it is.
Right.
So if my computer shuts down or if I just leave without sending, I'll be able to find it here. So we'll go ahead and send this from the drafts folder. Notice when I do, it leaves the drafts folder. So now it's gone.
Right.
And now it'll be in my sent folder actually. So we've looked at the basics of how to use email in the Outlook web app. It's pretty fundamentally similar to how you would do it in any other email app really. In the next module, let's dig a little bit deeper by looking at how we can use folders and search in our email.
All right. Sounds good.